Not long ago, I had to take a kiddo into the pediatrician's office, and it was the afternoon, kind of last appointment of the day. And anytime you get a last appointment of the day, it's usually you're waiting in the waiting room because they are backed up from previous appointments and running behind. And there we were, waiting and waiting. And it gets to be 4:30, 4:45, and I'm starting to panic because this is when I would normally be starting to make dinner, and I wasn't home, and it was going to be at least an hour before I got home because we still had to see the pediatrician, possibly grab a prescription on the way home at that point. And I am starting to have a little bit of a panic, and I immediately go to, okay, what fast food is on the way home? Well, just as I was starting to think that, my husband texted to say he was going back home, and I said, ooh, go grab sloppy joe meat out of the freezer. You can get it thawing and get it started in the skillet. And by the time I got home, the sloppy joe meat was all nice and warmed up on the skillet, and it was time for us to have dinner. That is the perfect example of how freezer meals can save the day and save you a whole lot of money when it comes to avoiding the drive-through when life throws you little situations and scenarios just like that one. In this 6th episode of season 2 on the Erin Chase Show, we are going to talk all about make-ahead freezer meals, why they work, how they work, and how you can get started with them in your kitchen. There are actually a lot of reasons maybe you haven't thought of that make-ahead freezer meals will work and help you in your kitchen and help you through life's scenarios, like that time I got stuck at the pediatrician's office. So let's think about some of those. First of all, you just don't feel like cooking. I know, I have those nights too. Even though I love to cook, I still just don't want to cook sometimes. So I love having options where I don't have to cook. Maybe I'll let an appliance cook for me, or I'll just put something into the oven. And then I have an option for me from the freezer to the table. Another reason freezer meals really work, I'm recording this in the middle of the pandemic and social distancing and quarantining. And let me tell you, so many times, even before we were allowed to go out to dinner or even pick up food from a restaurant, the freezer meals was what I was making when I would have been grabbing dinner for myself or maybe picking up a pizza or something like that. So having an option when we're stuck cooking at home all the time, I know we're not always going to be in a pandemic, but really, really fantastic for that season that we've been in. Also, when you just need dinner to cook itself, is another reason that freezer meals are amazing, because either appliances or ovens can cook your meal for you. And of course, there's busy schedules. You just need dinner to be taken care of for you, and you want to avoid the restaurant and takeout situation. Freezer meals are perfect for that. And also babies, new babies, when the only thing you can accomplish in a day is maybe taking a shower. The last thing you want to be doing is having to worry about dinner. So having freezer meals stashed away when you have a new baby, whether it's your first or your fourth, it doesn't matter. They are very handy. Also, if you are having an upcoming surgery or some kind of treatment coming up that is going to limit your mobility or ability to make dinner on the regular, you're going to want to also have freezer meals going on, as well as a life crisis. You guys have probably heard my house flooded a couple months ago, and I was slow cooking a freezer meal at my mom's house 3 days after our house flooded. She thought I was crazy. I was like, no, this is a meal that we like, and this is easy for me to do. So I am slow cooking while I deal with all of these other things. We were moving a lot of things. We had to move out of our house in a matter of days. And so we were moving a lot of things, but I was slow cooking a meal at her house because that's where my boys were going to be after school, so that they would have a dinner option. I actually don't even remember if I ate that meal. There's a lot of things I don't remember from that week, but I vividly remember having my slow cooker with my freezer meal on her counter, cooking dinner for us. Last reason, maybe the most important reason that we love freezer meals and why we should be making them on the regular, is they save so much money. not only in keeping you out of the drive-thru or from grabbing takeout or going out to a restaurant, like I've already mentioned, also with grocery savings as well. My very favorite way to save money on groceries is to get meat when it's on sale and turn it into a bunch of freezer meals, make the meals over the next couple of weeks until that same cut of meat is on sale again, and do the same thing over and over. And when you can cut your grocery spending just on meat alone, you will start to see significant savings over time. So that's why freezer cooking is really important and why freezer meals can be so helpful to you. And I want to explain now how they work. If you've never done freezer meals before, please listen to this, because I'm going to walk you through step by step exactly how freezer meal prep works and freezer meal cooking works. The first is how the prep works. So prep works, what we like to do is we like to shop for your freezer meal ingredients one day, and the next day you will prep your meals. We recommend splitting it up like that just because, you know, doing an hour in the grocery store getting ingredients and then coming right home and doing an hour of meal prep plus putting away some other groceries you might have bought, it's a lot. So we recommend dividing it into 2 parts or phases, if you will. So you prep, you shop for your groceries, and then you prep your meals the next morning or the next afternoon. I will typically, you don't have to do it this way, but I will typically shop for freezer meal ingredients apart from my regular weekly grocery. I'll go to my grocery store in the evening, and then the next morning I will do my freezer meal prep. I just like separating it out, but of course you can weave it into your regular weekly shopping or however you do your grocery shopping. So then when freezer meal prep happens, you'll get all your ingredients out on the counter, and the way that MyFreezEasy works and the way that we recommend doing your freezer meals is to get all your ingredients ready, which includes chopping any vegetables, peeling things, getting all the veggies ready to go that you're going to be adding into your meal bags or into your meal trays. Also mixing up any sauces. We do a little bit of pre-cooking, maybe browning ground beef or cooking pasta, depending on what you're making in your particular set of meals. We also open cans and prepare everything that we need for part 2 of our freezer meal prep, which is putting all the ingredients together into the bags or the trays. So you prep the ingredients and then you put all the meals together. And when you do it that way, it is really the most efficient way to do freezer meal prep. We have tried all the different ways that exist under the sun, and this is by far the fastest and most efficient, which is why we recommend it and why we built MyFreezEasy the way that we did. So once you have all your meals prepared and ready to go into the freezer, you're going to put them into the freezer. We recommend flat freezing to save space. I know freezer space is hot real estate in most kitchens, and so we want to make sure that you're making the most of that. So if you're freezing bags, you will want to put a piece of wax or parchment paper in between the bags so they don't stick together and you don't accidentally get a tear in the bags, they're not leaking when you go to thaw them. So stack them kind of Tetris style, one on top of another with a piece of paper in between the bags to help them. And then if you have a deep freezer, once the bags are frozen, you could stand them up so they're almost like little books. I'll put them in like an Amazon box so that they're stacked easy for me to grab out of the deep freezer. So there are different ways you can organize them in your freezer. What do you do with them after they've been frozen? The next thing we need to do is thaw them, and there are a number of different ways that you can thaw a meal. The first is in your fridge, typically overnight. Sometimes it can take 2 days for a meal to thaw in your fridge, depending on how dense and thick the meal is in its container. The other way is to quick thaw, which is using water, much like you would thaw a turkey on Thanksgiving morning. You would thaw in a bowl or a tray of water. You can thaw your freezer meals that way. They'll thaw very quickly. If you're not using a foil container, you can thaw meals in the microwave as well. I personally don't prefer or recommend thawing in the microwave because if you have raw meat, it can start to cook the meat a little bit as you're thawing in the microwave. So I recommend the fridge or water. Once the meal is thawed, then of course you need to cook it, and there are all different types of freezer meals, from freezer to slow cooker, which are probably the most popular, freezer to Instapot, grill meals. You can bake, you cook on the stovetop. There's different options and ways to cook them. But once your meal is thawed out, then you can cook it as directed on the recipe. Real quick, I want to tell you a little bit more about MyFreezEasy. You know what I love about freezer meals? They help you punch the busy and the chaos right in the face. I want to share a quick story with you. A couple of weeks back, I was stuck in the pediatrician's office. My little guy had a cough that would just not go away, so I called and made an appointment, and we got the 4 p.m. appointment, which was the last appointment of the day at this pediatrician's office, which isn't really the best appointment to get because you end up sitting there in the waiting room while they catch up on their day, and I was there waiting and waiting and waiting, and at this point it's well past 4:30, and I immediately go into what are we gonna do about dinner? Because by the time I get home, it's gonna be after 6 o'clock. What are we going to do? I'm not gonna have time to cook. And then I think, oh, I'll just grab takeout. No big deal. Well, then my husband texted right at that same moment that I was thinking that, and I texted him right back. Oh, good. You can save dinner. Okay, pull this out of the freezer, put it in a bowl of warm water, and start thawing it. I'm sure he was like, what is she talking about? But I texted him a little bit more, and I knew we weren't gonna have to end up spending more money on dinner than we needed to by grabbing takeout on the way home. Freezer meals save the day yet again. I love freezer cooking so much for that reason I just explained, and I know that you're gonna be hooked on it as soon as you give it a try. You just don't know what you're missing out on yet. You don't know how awesome it is to have these easy meals for those crazy busy weeknights. I want you to be able to give these a try, which is why I have a free sample trial freezer meal plan where you can get these tried and true recipes into your freezer. Then you'll have a few no-fuss dinner options waiting for you in the freezer so that you can punch that busy and the chaos in the face too. You are definitely going to want to sign up for that workshop. I go into much more detail about all of the different things that I mentioned, from getting your meals prepped and into the freezer and thawed and cooked for your dinner. Let's talk now about pie. If you haven't listened to episode 2 of season 1, you will want to go back to hear a little bit more about pie and how and why it is my recipe for intentional living. We plan, we implement, we evaluate. The acronym of that is PIE. And yes, I love me some pie. So I want to talk about planning, implementing, and evaluating with freezer meals and how you can kind of work these into your life and how they can become a regular part of your dinner rotation. For planning your freezer meals, of course, you are going to want to choose your meals. You can use MyFreezEasy and our free sample meal plan that we have available. Of course, we have our membership and apps that you could use as well to choose the meals that you want to make work for your family. Once you choose them, we will provide all of the recipe, shopping lists, and step-by-step instructions that you will need to then implement. The next step, once you get everything planned out, you will implement and make those 6 to 10 meals. We recommend starting with 6 to 10. I don't want you going crazy and doing an entire month's worth of meals. Just start with 6 or 10 so you can see how easy this whole process is, and then get them into the freezer. Then of course you'll need to cook them later. So that is your implement phase, is getting these meals done, frozen, and ready to go. Last, evaluate. We've planned, we've implemented, we've evaluated. So we need to cook our meals and we need to fine tune the process. What worked well? What didn't work well? What can you improve the next time? What different freezer cooking hacks can you try and implement? Things like, when I go to the grocery store, I just leave the shelf-stable ingredients on my kitchen counter because the next morning I'm going to go and do the prep. That's an example of something that I quickly did and improved on to make my freezer meal prep experience a little bit easier, going from grocery store to freezer meal prep. You also want to look at other meals that you can try that you think your family will enjoy. And those are just a couple of examples of things to kind of evaluate and look at. So then of course you go back to planning again, making a new set of recipes and meals you can put into your freezer, getting them into the freezer. You can see the rotation in the cycle. That's pie. The recipe is really a cycle. Pieology, the study of pie. Can we make that a thing? We should make pieology a thing. Let's make pieology a thing. We will plan, implement, evaluate. Plan, implement, evaluate. You really just go in circles one after another. In this particular case, we're talking about freezer cooking, but of course applies in all areas of your life. We wrap each episode of the Erin Chase Show with thinking, feeling, and taking action. And you can probably already guess what the take action will be, but this is what I want you to be thinking about. I want you to be thinking in terms of you reap what you sow, as it relates to, in this case, dinner. Using freezer meals, if you can invest a little bit of time in getting those 6 to 10 meals ready and into your freezer, you will save so much time on the days that you need a freezer meal, whether it's because your schedule's busy or a crisis came up or your day got derailed by whatever thing, or you got really into the flow and getting some work done and you completely blew through your meal prep time. You've got backup waiting for you in the freezer. So I want you to be thinking, I want you to be forward and future thinking with this. I want you to think about how doing this now will help you later. And then I want you to feel like uber prepared. When you do this, we've talked about one step ahead in season 1. This is one step ahead. You are going to feel so extra prepared and ready for being able to make dinner no matter what comes up in your day, whether it's the crisis or the emotions or the work distraction, whatever it is, you are going to be extra prepared when you have make ahead freezer meals ready for you. And last, take an action. If you have not taken the MyFreezEasy workshop, you are going to want to sign up for that, learn more about it, get your free sample meal plan so that you can get 6 meals made and into your freezer. You got your action plan, you know what to do, and I have got you fully equipped and ready to get those meals into your freezer. If you haven't yet subscribed to the Erin Chase Show in your favorite podcast player or on YouTube, I would love for you to do that so you will not miss any future episodes. Also, please rate and review the show. It helps other people find it and it helps us know what other topics you want to hear about so we can bring you that in the future. Finally, if you haven't yet downloaded the worksheets that go with all of the episodes here in season 2 of the Erin Chase Show, you can do that at erinchase.io/podcast. My intention-seeking friend, it is bye for now, and we'll talk again soon.